Okay, there, it should be recording now. Okay, this I've been sitting on for a long time. I recently reread the, well, it's, oh, I don't know, series. I'm trying to figure out how long it took me, and not more than a month, because this is light reading for me. So, it pretty much picks up off where we left off in the end of the last book after the big battle, you know, the cleanup, and then, well, surprise, surprise, you know, best buddy gets axed off, and I did this because quote-unquote axed off, and spoilers if you haven't read the fucking series, you know what happens. Anyway, Varden needs a new leader. They choose the daughter of the last guy because she could be a puppet, and then she chooses to be very, very strong-willed. Now, my favorite part of this book is Roran. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Eragon's cousin. I love that guy. Seriously. The author could have cut out all the dragons and magical bullcrap and, you know, not Jedi Order after the fucking fall and shit, and just did a fucking book based on Roran. Basically, soldiers come and force him out of his village. Anyway, the plot with him is basically Galbatorix sends soldiers with the Razak to get him so they can, through him, hurt Eragon, and he hides, and then they start, like, fucking up the village, and eventually the villagers get sick of it, and he kind of just, you know, leads the villagers. He becomes, like, this badass, competent leader, and he's not even a great warrior. Well, he becomes a great warrior over the course of the books, but he becomes good because he has that drive, he has that determination. He's going to protect what's his, which is his home, and his friends, and his family, and his lover, Katrina. Well, they only make love once before she's kidnapped because her father, Sloan the Butcher, turned traitor, and the Razak take her, and then it's like they know they're lost, so he's like, you know what, we're gonna cross the fucking spine. Everybody's like, what, we're gonna die? He's like, nope, we're not, because I'm going. And then he's just like so fucking determined. He's got this burning drive in him, and that just inspires confidence in others. And that's how people actually work. You get a person who has the drive to say, I'm gonna climb that mountain, who's with me? And he, you know, he's just that kind of fiery, passionate leader, and they follow, and they make their way down the coast. They take some barges. They get to Tram, whatever the fucking port city is, and he meets Jode, and him and Jode kind of team up, and they steal his ship, and they just go down. And meanwhile, Eragon, he goes north with the elves, well, to the elves, up into their big forest, and there to meet his teachers, and surprise, surprise, it's our Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know, if Brome wasn't enough of an Obi-Wan, we get this new Obi-Wan. He was, you know, he still has his dragon, but he's, you know, due to magical bullshit, he can only cast the simplest of spells, and his dragon's missing an arm, and it's just like they've hidden away, waiting for the next rider so that they may cliche bullshit. Again, I won't say the series is perfect. I'll say it is horribly flawed, horribly cliched. Its overarching plot is basically a Star Wars ripoff with a bunch of Lord of the Rings, you know, generic fantasy bullshit woven into it. And after rereading the series this time, I finally understand what the problem is. Why it's not the great fantasy epic it's trying to be. Because he didn't develop the world enough. He can say, you know, nigh on 100 years ago, such and such, son of such and such, rode the mighty Blugblurg, and, you know, conquered the town of Blugblurg. But what does that mean to me? When Tolkien wrote, he'd fought his entire history out. In fact, we know he fought his entire history out, or he wrote it down later. And he made this huge, you know, the world that Tolkien crafted, hell, even the world that Lewis crafted over the course of his books, it was an expansive world. It meant something when they said 1,000 years ago, because you knew. If, you know, nowadays, after all Tolkien shit's come out, you know, his son's done everything he can, he's even published about how his father wrote those books. You can go and you can get the Silmarillion, and you can read or the Silmarillion or the Unfinished Tales or any of those, like, hundreds of fucking books that are out on the subject, and you can read and you can learn. Oh, that's what that means. With this, it's just you take his word that in the author's mind he sees this epic thing that happened 100 years ago, but it means nothing to you. Because you know it means nothing. It's just the author trying to make a grand fantasy world, but he doesn't have that power to make a grand fantasy world. Anyway, Aragorn trains with his master. You know, actually no, Oramus is Yoda. That's what he is. He's Yoda. He's the master in exile in some distant place. Literally makes him meditate on his own with kind of, you only take in what what's waiting for me in there. Only what you take in with you. It's literally Yoda. And then, my friends are in danger. You should stay here and train with me. But my friends are in danger. Then go, if you must. I'm not even bullshitting you. That's exactly what happens. Memory card. I'll edit it together. It'll look seamless. Or not. So, again, big battle on the Burning Plains. And you know what? I just love the fact that he's trying to combine Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. And again, watch my Aragorn review, and I'm like talking about how I forgive the flaws of all the cliches. But that don't mean I'm not going to point them out. It's just this beautiful moment where he's like, where you realize the author's trying to put Star Wars and Lord of the Rings together. So, and magic somehow. I'm trying to think of a series where the magic works like in this one. I guess one of the basic rules of magic, the rules of magic in this are really well defined, but they're the cliched rules of magic that you usually find elsewhere. Energy has to come with somewhere. If you use too much, you die. But, okay, if you're saying these are Lord of the Rings elves, and for every one of them there were 5 men in battle, and now you're giving them magic, why didn't they just, why didn't, once the last of the Forsworn die, they didn't just rush out en masse, and, seriously, in the later books, when the elves do finally march, no city stands before them. They just conquer his men like they're nothing. If every elf is worth 5 dudes, and they have magic at their side, why haven't they destroyed this guy yet? Yeah, I understand during the fall, he had, the Forsworn and the Eldinari, I believe they're called. But still, it's like, with enough spellcasters, you could destroy this guy. And if every elf is a spellcaster, why can't you just overwhelm him to the point where his wards burn him out? Seriously. Seriously. Hell, use the elves to destroy the fucking thing, the fucking shelf over the city. Have it crush the city. His wards wouldn't protect him from that. And if they did try to, he'd run out of energy before it was all said and done, and he'd be crushed flat as a pancake. Anywho, and it's like the dwarves are coming, and again, like I said, we get to see the elves culture, and they are very, very much the elves of Tolkien, just, set in a world of Star Wars, which really makes no sense. Because if every elf in Tolkien had the powers that were on an equal playing, were given the ability to have an equal playing field as their enemies, there would have been no fucking contest. But no, in Tolkien, magic in Tolkien is so fucking beautifully done, because it's not just, I say a magic word and you go boom. It's implied magic. It's, there's a mysticism to it. It's just not in this. Anyway, he has the Yoda moment. He goes back. Burning Plains battlefield, dwarves rushing in. The villagers come with a fucking river in the boat. Everybody meets at once, and then Thorn comes in. That's the name of this dragon, Thorn. And surprise, surprise, the best friend we thought died at the beginning, his rider. Surprise, surprise, And we got to see a little bit of the dwarf culture before he moved on to the elves, but we'll get to more of that in the next book. And it's just like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to make this one long-ass review, and I'm just going to finish the series. And, it's just that they have this battle, and his friend defeats him, and in this very Empire Strikes Back way, beats him. He's on the ground, and it's like, Aragorn, I am your brother! Morzin was your father. Search your heart, you know it to be true. so stupid, the plot twist. But I actually like the plot twist that Morzan's his father. I would love if Morzan was, you know, if you had the son who's supposed to be the hero and his dad, it's like if Hitler's son was destined to save the world. I know Hitler didn't have a son, but seriously, it's like saying Hitler's son is best, you know, actually not Hitler, more like Goebbels. Say Goebbels' son is meant to save the world. You know, yeah, it's cliche to say the villain's son, and I know I just use the Nazis as, you know, a benchmark for evil in our real world, but they're, you know, excluding, you know, certain events that are going on right now, they're the most recognizable brand, you know, thing that you can compare to evil. Anyway, it's just like, oh my god, that is cliched, but I like that cliche more than the cliche he turned it into later, which is, you know, I'll get to it when I read the actual book. And of course he's, you know, I will take our father's sword, it's my inheritance, and he takes it and he leaves, and before he does, when he first showed up, he kills King Hrothgar, the king of the dwarves, and it's just like, okay, that's cool. and Roran, like, bashes one of the twins' heads in with his fucking hammer. Like, that's his weapon. He uses a fucking hammer. Like, sword? I don't need a fucking sword. I've got a hammer. And how he beats his opponents is he literally outdraws them. He fences with a hammer to be faster with them and knocks the sword, breaks their fucking wrist before bashing them. That's fucking badass. And then, like, we have this subplot of, like, Nausicaa, like, basically destroying the economy by using magic to make silk. And so where I was, I had to take a little break because my camera batteries died after the memory card was full. So, yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Elva. Basically, because he misspoke his blessing, it turned into a curse. Instead of being shielded from misfortune, she is a shield to misfortune. Basically, she feels the pain of others and is compelled to protect it. And I thought this was really cool because in the first book, she's a baby, and here she's like 4 years old. She's still a baby, and the only excuse given is, the magic compelled me, so I grew. Which, it's like, the magic is so rooted into her that it's like making her body, it's messing with her physiology so that she can fulfill the role of the, you know, the curse that's on her. And so she, like, becomes Nausicaa's bodyguard, or whatever the frickin' lady's name is. I don't care about names, really. But it's like, okay, that's cool. But her idea to use magic to make lace and, like, destroy the economy of the country, the rebel country they're living in, is just like, no, that's not cool. I like the king in this book. He's funny, not the big bad king, the king of the country they're staying in. And later books, the stress of the war kind of turned him into a douchebag, and I'm wondering why the author felt to go that way. Did he feel the good guys needed a bad guy within their ranks, so they just said, you know, who can I make a complete asshole? Oh yeah, this guy. Now, I don't remember if it's this book or the next book that the Argylls form a pact with them, but they do, and I don't think it was in this one. Here, let me check. I don't really have the time for this. An unexpected ally, 493. No, that's a Roran chapter, and it's basically one of the women of Carvajal. Her husband was eaten by the Razak, so she swears like a blood oath to fucking, like, fuck up Roran, as, you know, because it's like, it would be dishonorable for, you know, blood feud, blah, 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 that stupid shit. Yeah, I don't see it, so yeah, it must be the next book. Anywho. On to said next book. Fire. Yeah, I'm not even going to pretend that I can pronounce Brisingr. I don't like saying it, so this is book Fire. This dragon is Gladar, or whatever the heck his name is. He's the, you know, the Yoda dragon. So this book begins, Eragon's like, oh, I got my ass handed to me by my brother, my father's an evil guy. And again, I like that. I like the fact that he was going that direction, and then this book had to fucking ruin it. And it's like, it actually begins with him and Roran, like, going to fucking the Helgred, or wherever the frickin' tower the Razak live in. It's like, we're gonna get them back for fucking killing our father. You mean my father, your uncle? No, our father, because I refused to accept Morrison as my father, so Garu was my father. You know, he was more a father than me than, you know, anyone could ever be. Again, I like that. It's like, we're gonna go in, we're gonna fuck these guys up. So, Eragon goes, they go in, they kill one of the Razak. Saphira destroys their parents, which are their mounts. And then it's like, they find her, and then Eragon senses that her dad's in the next cell, and so he lies, and oh, he's dead, but I'm going to stay here and finish off the last Razak, so you guys go on ahead with Saphira, and he kind of forces the thing. And then he nearly gets himself killed rescuing the Butcher, and it's like, and then he does something that a lot of the fan base is torn about. He curses the Butcher. Basically, you're going to go to Elismera, or whatever the fucking elf capital is. You're going to live there. Oh, and the Razak pecked the dude's eyes out, so that's pretty nasty. You're going to live there. And you're never going to see your daughter again. You're never going to speak to her again. And you're going to live the rest of your life in the Elf City until you repent. And then, well, he didn't tell the Butcher this outright, but if he were to repent, Eragon made into the spell that if he truly repented for his ways, the elves would fix his eyes. Okay, that's fair enough. That's kind of a cruel and unusual punishment, but the man was a traitor. He killed a man by stabbing him in the back. He endangered both himself and his daughter over the simple fucking nonsense of being overly superstitious and overly protective. And yes, you can argue both ways that Eragon should have just left him to die, should have killed him, but Eragon is our patron saint of a hero, so he can't fucking do no wrong. You couldn't kill him, and again, it's not his place to mete out justice like that, but at the same time, he doesn't want to see the man die because he knew this guy all his life. Like, if you were to put yourself in your shoes, say the guy who lived down the road from you, like, your entire life, did something horribly unspeakable. He killed a guy. And then you were given the power to execute him. Would you be able to? I don't think you would. I wouldn't. Yeah, there's plenty of people who I've been neighbors with who I've not liked, but I don't think I'd ever be able to, just put myself in the position of Judge Judy and executioner. Yes, I like Hot Fuzz. Anyway, so, they go, he has to make his way back, and then, oh, I forgot. The dragons fucking fixed his back at the Blood Oath celebration. There's these two dancing naked twins with a dragon tattooed across them. Like, they summon this spirit that is the dragon, like the very incarnation of the oath the elves and the dragons had with each other, and it just, like, fixes his back because Durza really fucked it up. Like, there's a curse on the wound, and he kept having seizures, and it was, like, preventing him from fully training. And there's this one jackass elf during his training that he eventually beats after he fixes his back, and the thing actually made him look more like an elf, and yeah. So there was that. Anywho, I forgot all about that. So anyway, like, he gets back, he looks like an elf, and him and Arya, or Ara, or whatever her face is, elf chick, they travel back together through the Empire, and he's like as strong as an elf now, and DSS Machina, or whatever the fucking term is. And like, he makes his way back, and it's like, they get back, and there's these new elven spellcasters there. The Argals are there, and they've teamed up with them because Galbatorix basically fucked them over, and it's just like, we will kill them, yada yada yada. Eragon knows a bit of their culture. He doesn't want to work with them, but he has to, and then over time, he comes to understand, and, like, he cares for the Argals by the end of the series, because they're one of the races just the same as anybody else, and that's what the series basically turns into. Every race in Elghasia hates Galbatorix, thus they join together to fuck him over for the first time in history. All the major races working together as one, yada yada yada. But now, because Hrothgar got killed, he's got to go due to the clan meet, because, with Auric, to see that the next king of the dwarves will help him. And of course, there's this one clan of dwarves that fucking hate him because Galbatorix nearly wiped out their entire clan when he first rose to power, so they like, hate everything that Dragon and Riders stand for, and it's like, we have to get Auric to be king, otherwise you know, it's gonna be horrible, it's gonna be horrible, you know, the dwarves will withdraw their support, and it's like, you know he's gonna end up getting the title. You know, it would have been cool if, you know, Orc didn't become king, and he'd given the title to, you know, the title of king had been passed to another dwarf, but one that was still friendly with the clans. At this point, it's like, no, your foster brother becomes king, your love interest is the daughter of the queen of the elves, you're second in command of the humans, you know, you work yourself into so many high places, you know, really, you know, everything can just be handed to you, can't it now? But anyway, you know, you get to see how dwarven politics work, and that was pretty cool. And there's, you know, I love how they deal with the clan that tried to kill him. It's like, you know, he's a guest. It's like, if you attack me, I'll go to war with you. If you threaten me, I'll go to war with you. Okay, we'll ignore you then. What? Yeah, we'll ignore you and your entire clan. We won't trade with you. We won't do nothing. We'll just ignore you. We'll banish you. We'll not even acknowledge your existence. That was fucking an amazing thing to do. And then, like, they go off and they go back to do some more training. Do they go back to do more training? Yeah, they do. Because he needs to get a new sword, so they go under the, you know, they get under the big fucking tree. The cat, the werecat, Solemn Bum, or whatever whatever his fucking face is, told them that if you need, you know, in your greatest you know, time of need, there's, you know, go to the tree, it'll give you a weapon. And underneath the tree there is bright steel, which is what the old elf smith used to make the swords, but she's sworn to know if she can't make swords anymore. So they have to frickin', she basically uses Aragorn's body to make the sword. Like, she's like puppeting him, and the sword's like, so, you know, it's a magical sword. It's, well, more magic than any other rider sword, because when he names it Brisingar, or whatever the fucking word is, and every time he says it, the sword just bursts into flames, and it's like, he later realizes that that's a horrible downside, because now he can't use his favorite spell anymore. And, you know, he goes back, you know, to fight, and they, you know, conquer the city, and there's a shade, but all the while that's going on, he's getting glimpses of Oramus and Glidar, because they've gone out and they're gonna, you know, finally show themselves to the world, and they're fighting Murtagh and Thorn over the skies of Gilead. And then, you know, before this happened, Glidar had given Aragorn his Heart of Hearts, you know, his Eldenaria, or whatever the fuck they're called, so he can keep it safe, and it's just like, you know he's gonna die. They're gonna die now. They have to die. And so fucking Galbatorix takes control of Murtagh and kills him. And of course, this whole time Aragorn's getting flashes of it, and there's a shade about to rise, and then Arya kills it, and it's like, now you're a Shade Slayer too. That word's tricky. Say Shade Slayer 5 times fast. If I just heard something. Oh well. And you know, the book kind of ends on I think that's the end of the book, and it's been like 4 days since I read this, since I ended this, and it's just like, yeah, I'm just completely forgotten it, because I had another 800 and something pages to read. Yeah, that was pretty much it. The book ends on that note, and it's just like, this book is mainly, let's go to Helgred, okay, elves, battle, go to the, you know, clan meet, go to this thing, oh, look, I have a sword, now I'm a hero, you know. And I think it deals with you know, there are chapters with Roran, and again, I really love the chapters with Roran. It's like, he can work under the command of a respectable man. The man loses his fucking hand and won't go to get himself healed by spellcasters just so he can keep fighting. And then this book is also the one that introduces the soldiers who can't feel pain. Every time I start a new subject, though, better just at the start of a subject than in the middle getting cut off. The soldiers who feel no pain. Interesting concept, poorly executed, if only because they're treated as these invincible guys who can only be killed if you cut their heads off or bash their heads in. Because what the author fails to understand, from about the neck down, we are filled with these beautiful squishy things that if you cut them open, they bleed. And without proper attention, they bleed until you are no more. And, you know, and even our limbs are filled with beautiful things that if you slash open, bleed until you are no more. A significant drop in blood pressure is enough to drop a person, especially if their heart is pounding in the middle of a battle and you cut their hand off. They would be spurting all over the place. And like some of the wounds that these people are dealt if they get back up from, you should be able to get back up from, even if you couldn't feel pain. Like one of them is described as having his pelvis broken. You're not standing back up from that. You don't survive, you don't get back up if your rib cage is crushed in. I'm sorry, that's going to drop a lung. You drop a lung, puncture a lung, drop a lung. It gets hard to breathe. Especially if you're saying, like, it's like you're taking a war hammer to the side of your ribs. That is crushing those ribs, rupturing your lung in many places, probably dropping that lung. You don't get back up from that kind of injury, no matter whether or not you can't feel pain. And like some of them are like, they're talking about, oh, they're missing limbs. Yeah, well, blood loss is gonna drop them in a matter of minutes. I doubt they can continue fighting, even if they can't feel pain. So, like, they are just way too overstated to be like, oh my god, they're so a force to be reckoned with. Well, no, we're filled with, arteries and vital organs that if you fucking fuck up, no more, there's no more person after that. But yeah, that's the extent of this one. Oh, and he had to marry his cousin really, really quickly, because it turns out the one night they spent together before they got married and the Red Book knocked her up. So it would be best for her honor and my honor, if we got married as quick as possible. But again, back to Roran's thing. Then he gets put under this incompetent commander. It's like, how did this guy rise to such prominence if his main strategy is, let's hit him head on and see how that gets us? And then Roran kills nearly 200 soldiers in one battle, which is plausible given how they put the scenario, which is he's basically standing in an alleyway, which means only two guys can come at him at once. He's got archers on the roof, and he's got guys to his side, so if anybody does try and outflank him, they can spear him. So he's basically just taking one guy head on at a time, and he's basically just swinging a fucking hammer back and forth. He's literally just a wrecking ball that's just smashing into these guys as they run down the alleyway. And at the end, he's standing on a pile of bodies, and he's like, and he gets back, and he gets whipped. He gets whipped so much that a normal human being would have died. The kind of whip they use was wrong for that kind of flogging. Either the author doesn't know what he's fucking talking about, or he really just wants to show that, yeah, Roran's not human. Oh, and then it's revealed, again, remember how I said that Morzin was his father? Morzin, first and last of the Forsworn? Yeah, it was Brom. Brom infiltrated his castle so as to fucking, figure out everything about him. And then he seduced his freaking court, his mistress, and that's how Aragorn came to be, and then that's why Brom lived in Carvahall. He was keeping a watch on his son, and it's just like, oh my god, why did you do that? Why did you have to make the Obi-Wan his father? Why couldn't you have just had Obi-Wan's best friend, who's already dead, so we don't have to deal with his father bullcrap, be his dad? Just keep the villain his father. No. Hero who started the Varden, the guy who's the Obi-Wan mentor to him. Even in the first thing, after Brom died, he carves an epitaph that says, like a father to me. My god. It's just so frustrating that the cliche had to go that way. You could have kept one cliche, but no, you cliched, then you feinted a cliche. How do you feint a cliche? You hit us with one thing, and then nope. It's like throwing a punch, and then nope, boom, uppercut. So, on to the last one, which, as you've noticed, is large enough to kill a small animal. I'm actually pretty sure I could kill a man with this if I tried. This is why we don't have a trilogy, because this much was left over. Anywho, it begins with, sadness. Oramus and Gladar are dead. And then, more battles. Roran's sent down south to deal with one city. They go into Dresleona. One of the elves gets randomly killed off in Dresleona. And, Murtags there was Thorn, and... Oh, no, it starts at the Battle of, Bellona or something. And there's like this death dart thing. It's like this evil dragon killing lance that just conveniently happens to be there. Its name's Orchid. I'm probably going to run out of time soon, so I'm kind of like worried about my position. Okay, called it. 2, the half-hour charge on those batteries, wearing off pretty quickly, so we're going to have to make this really quick. 1, the battle, we get this takeout where Roran looks like he died. No, not the truth. They go to address Leona, the priest are there, they overthrow him. Angela reveals more of her, a little bit more of her. I really hate that character. It's like, you just self-inserted your sister's personality onto this Tom Bombadil-esque character. Do you think we care? We think you care that she's deep? No, we just don't, oh, maybe she's this, maybe she's this. What is she? What is the mystery? I'll never tell. Yeah, that kind of bullshit. At least with Tolkien, when he wrote Tom Bombadil into the fucking Lord of the Rings, he at least had ideas, none he ever went with, but Tom Bombadil was a toy of his kids. You're literally taking your sister's personality going, here you go, be in my books as the most mysterious character ever. Yeah, fuck that. Anyway, he figured out, he alleviates some of Elva's curse, but she doesn't want to go into address Leona, so Waedred the elf, we only met 5 minutes ago, dies. I like Bloodgrim, though. He's, like, my favorite fucking elf. He's, like, covered in fucking fur. And then later on, the Werecats join him. I think that was before Address Leona, because the Werecats were spying in the city, and, like, he wastes all the, in his, like, Brome's ring, he wastes all the energy in that, and he loses the belt of Bolaf the Wise, whoever the fuck that is. Who are we supposed to care about him? And then they, like, Noceda gets kidnapped by Thorn and Murtagh, and he, figures out through this bullshit that on, like, Vorengard, or whatever the fuck it's called, like, the stronghold of the riders, there's something that's gonna help him, and the Werecats are like, we don't know how we know, but we know. And then, like, we get to see Noceda in prison, and it's like, yeah, Murtagh likes her, and she was going to be killed, and so he had to convince Galbatorix, no, you can bring her to our side, and then because of her sway over them, they'll join us, and we'll put the rebellion down, and we get to see her being in prison. She kills her jailer, she makes stuff. Her and Murtagh grow close. End of story. Roran leads a charge against this one city. He builds this huge fucking raft. They break through its, like, canal system. They take the city. He proves he's a badass. He loses his friend Magician. Not much else aside from that. Until the final battle, that is, he goes to this fucking thing, and then one of the elves, I guess, during the fall on the island, literally turned himself into a nuke. Like, he can turn his body into energy, and fucking, so the areas are radiated, and there's these birds made of shadow, and anglerfish frogs, and burrow grubs, and, they see the remnants of the battle, and eventually he learns you gotta speak your true name to get in, so after much Buddhist, I must look within myself to find myself bullshit, he gets into the Vault of Souls, and it's, surprise, surprise, full of Eldinari and like 250 fucking dragon eggs. Wow. Way to fucking pull it out. That's an ass pull. If I ever saw one. Nope, not gonna go extinct. Yeah. And then it's like they worked magical bullshit to make it so that they, Gladar and them would forget. So like when, they tried to save the dragons, but they failed. In reality, they didn't. And then so they take some of them back with them. They meet up at Oru Ben, the big city. It's like, oh, we're going to go in and we're going to fuck them up. The elves show up, the dwarves are there, everybody's together. And it's like, we're going to go in and we're going to fuck them up. And then Shuriken flies over, and I'm sorry, I call him Shuriken, because that's just what his name looks like to me. It's like Shuriken or something, but I'm like Shuriken, that's what his name is. And he's like this giant fucking thing, and Elva's like, it's like, can we save, he's like, what do we feel, Elva? And she's like, pain. If he could, he'd destroy the world if he could. He's just that mad. It's like, can we save him? No. And they go in, they do this daring plan to go in, and they meet fucking Galbatorix, and he's just literally God mode, you will stay still, you won't talk. Ooh, look, you brought me more Eldinari. Now you and Murtagh shall duel for my enjoyment. And then outside in the city, you got this guy, Lord Barst or something, and he's just like fucking, he's literally fucking the Witch King of Angmar. He's literally got the fucking maze waiting for people. I'm invincible! He kills Queen Aslanzi, and then Roran's like, we gotta kill him. So they just overwhelm his wards, and Roran like fucking bear hugs him and like crushes his chest plate in on his Eldenari that he's strapped to his chest, which burns into like dragon fire, I guess, and kills him, which makes so much sense. If you want to make yourself all powerful, strap something that's gonna, if it's dented, if it cracks, burn you alive to a place where you're going to be hit. I mean, that's overconfidence on his part, but he's just like, and again, the only reason Roran was, like, there's points where you know why Roran, like, he's covered in the blood of his enemies, which Roran sent in to kill him, so Roran was able to slip out of his grip. His face is destroyed by the white crow thingy. His breastplate was already slightly carved in by Narsvog Garskava, the fucking Argol, so, boom, and then, you know, Roran wakes up late. So yeah, that half-hour recording thing, charge on my battery, yeah, it died spectacularly at this point, and I just don't want to put them, I tried putting them on for a bit more, but it died halfway through the thing, so enjoy this beautiful picture of Shuriken, which was, I believe, one of the book covers, and about halfway through, after I record this, narration, I'm going to put one of the Left Blaka, or whatever the fuck the Rozak mount is called, because that was the book cover in another country. Yeah, I'm looking as this recording comes ever closer to the end of what I thought I would need. Anywho, back to the thing, you know, they show why he was able to defeat the guy. He wakes up later. We go back into, Galbatorix's, you know, lair, and the fight between Murtagh and Aragon is just raging on. Neither one can really best the other, and I'm about to hit the edge of what I can record, but I'll just continue recording until it's all said and done, because I'm pretty sure I can continue recording past this point. Yeah, I can. Anywho, it's like, you know, Aragon realizes Murtagh's not fighting for himself anymore. He's fighting for another, and can I just say I love King Galbatorix's personality at times? Like, when he had Noceda in prison, he mentions, like, the one thing I'm doing all this time to keep the land safe is I have been, you know, making sure that they couldn't use magic to counterfeit money. And then later on, like, when Aragon's cleaning up the spells in the city, he finds a spell place for no other reason than to keep a door's hinges from creaking. Seriously, that is funny shit. Anyway, like, because he knows the name, you know, like I said, he knows the true name of the ancient language, so he has, like, full command over it. Like, he can control all magic, and it's just like, oh my god, he's so god mode powerful. Anyway, Aragon defeats Murtagh, and Murtagh realizes because he's not fighting for himself anymore, he's, like, free. He's changed himself enough that his name in the ancient language, his true name is changed, which means he can now go against the oaths he swore to Galbatorix, and so he yells the name of the ancient, you know, the name of the true magic, strips Galbatorix of wards. Thorn and Saphira are attacking Shuriken. Arya fucking stabs the death dart through his eye, killing him. Galbatorix is, like, just destroying Aragon with his mind, and then Aragon's like, why can't he understand? And then he casts a spell with his mind to force Galbatorix to understand, to feel the pain, all of the pain that he has caused others over the years. The dragons added that in, so, like, it literally, Galbatorix is just so incapacitated by his pain and anguish, like, that he's caused other people. And Aragon stabbed him, and then he just does this beautiful thing. Oh yeah, and earlier on he'd threatened to kill 2 children, but that's not important. He makes himself not be. He nukes himself, hoping to take everything with him, and of course they save, you know, Aragon saves everybody through the power of all of them. Then they, you know, escape the crumbling remains of the fortress, and Arya goes and gets the green egg, and all the other, you know, Eldenari that are in the back meet up, and everything's great, and then they have this, like, this, you know, Aragon now know, you know, Thorn and Murtagh leave, you know, we can't stay here, we're damaged goods, we can't stay here, no one would accept us, we'll come back when the world might be a gentler place, and Aragon's like, yeah, okay, brother, you go, and they leave on good terms, and then there's this debate as to who's going to be king, and again, King Orin, why did you have to make him a jackass? You know, he was so fun in Eldest, and then you're just, like, decided, the good guys need a bad guy, so it's him.
And, Nasada becomes queen, surprise, surprise, and she sets herself up as High Queen so that, different, at least two separate independent nations can exist within this new kingdom she's created. And then Aragon's basically flying from city to city to make sure that, he can remove Galbatorix's wards and, make people, make the world a better place. And all the while he's thinking about, what will I do with the dragon eggs? Where will I take them? And, Arya goes back and becomes Queen of the Elves. We only find out that later in, the last couple chapters. Literally, the last, 100.5 pages are the epilogue. And, again, back to how he killed Galbatorix really quickly. I love in book series where they do that, where the hero just doesn't fucking kill the bad guy out. I had a small hitch, and now I'm recording again. You'll see it at the outtake at the end. Basically, something popped up and scared the hell out of me. Anyway, back to I love how they, when a hero kills their enemy, but they don't outright, just butcher them with a blade or something where they, Harry Potter. Voldemort was too overconfident. He didn't know the full facts behind the wand he was wielding. It wouldn't kill Harry because Harry was his owner, and it backfires and kills him. And, Lord of the Rings. Good doesn't defeat evil. Evil defeats evil. So many other examples I could give where it's just in Star Wars, Luke doesn't kill the Emperor. No, he redeems his father and his father kills the Emperor. I love those kind of endings, and yeah, they're cliche, but I like that. And again, so back to the fucking thing, Aragon's just basically undoing all of Galbatorix's evil. There are small rebellions. Winter goes by. Katrina has the baby. It's a little girl. I know I earlier neglected to mention Horse's daughter. Basically, his wife, her pregnancy was overdue. The baby was born. She had a cat lip, or whatever the fucking word is, cleft lip, something like that. Aragon use an elvish song of healing type deal to fix the kid, and all is good, but, anyway, back to the thing, they make freaking Roran the Earl of Palancar Valley, so he's just cool. And then, Aragon, meets up with Arya, and surprise, surprise, the green egg hatched for her, and it becomes Saphira's mate, and, he's like, well, I'm leaving Elghasia forever. Why? I need a place to raise the dragons, and they're too destructive to have around any other race, so I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna piss off, I don't like Nasa just playing to control magicians. I don't like that. I don't like this. I'm just gonna piss off. I gotta fulfill the prophecy that was laid down in the first book, and this is the most convenient reason, and so, he goes back and, he meets up with, he talks with Auric, the king of the dwarves, and it's I want to make dwarves riders, and he goes and he talks to the Argos, whose culture is based off Native Americans, and they're our children will grow and they will want to seek glory and they will attack humans, and he's like, well, why don't we have the Olympics? That's literally what he fucking proposes, the Olympics. And yeah, that'll work, and it's oh, by the way, Argos can be riders now too, I want that. So they do this thing where, he has Roran and Katrina go to the dwarf cities with Arya, and then they go to Dolordan Varden, or whatever the forest is called, while he goes to Vorgard to get the eggs, and the few Eldenarii are left there, and then they meet up, and they amend the pack so that dwarves and Argos can be riders, and then they set off, and tear-filled reunions all around, and it literally just drags on. He fixes Sloane's eyes so he can see his daughter and granddaughter. He doesn't let him actually interact with them, but you can watch him from a distance while they're here, because I'd forgotten about you, and this is cruel that she's 10 feet away from you, and you can't do anything about it. And it ends, and you know what, in final summation, throughout this, you may think I hate this series. No, I actually really, really like it. Despite how horribly cliched and bullshitty it is at times, I love it. It's just, it's a good read, and it's an engaging read. It's you can say what you will about any book series or anything, that follows this hero's journey formula, that it's, it's full of cliches, it's this, it's that, what's going to happen, but it doesn't change it from being an engaging story. And I really, really love the story it overall tells. You know, the review I said back in my Aragon review is that I overlooked the flaws, and I love the series because of that. I don't think I would be as hard and scathing in this review if I didn't actually enjoy it. If anything, I wouldn't even feel the need to do it. So with that, enjoy the outtake. Right, that's a beautiful thing to happen. What the fuck? What the fuck is that?